Hi, welcome to Demo Garage. I'm Steven, and in today's episode I'm going to be describing how I recovered my sunroof. Some of you that have seen the very first episode know that when I shipped the vehicle from Michigan to Southern California, the outer skin here did not come along for the ride. So this is going to be part one in a two-part series of recovering the sunroof. So let me show you what I got. Okay, so it's now time to start working on the sunroof. If you can't tell, this is the top, or what would be exposed to the outside or exterior of the vehicle. And when I had the vehicle shipped from Michigan, I had it in an outdoor carrier situation, and the sunroof did not make the trip. Somewhere along the line, it ripped across here and it ripped across here. And so now this is the interior or the headliner portion of the sunroof. It's actually quite heavy. It's been a while since I've played around with this thing or looked at it. Gosh, it's a better part of, I'd say, 5 pounds or so. I've got the front of the vehicle here that's got the latch mechanism, and then the back. And I have a new, I guess, vinyl material. I actually went with a Hart's cloth replacement because I like the look of that. So again, another place where I didn't go original. I don't know what I'm doing here. I can start taking things apart. It looks as though I should do some treatment to these front and back pieces. This back piece looks like it could stand a little bit more love than the front. Not really sure how this even goes together, but the vinyl appears to be glued around these edges. This is the back. And my guess is, even with new everything, these TVR sunroofs probably leak like a sieve. That might be okay if it's just parked outside and the vehicle gets caught in the rain or something like that. But when you're driving, I'm assuming that water just can find its way in. Someone had put like plumber's putty all along these outside edges. So these are the fasteners that, this is the back. These are the fasteners that kind of like T-nuts, I guess, or some sort of a rivet nut that I'm going to need to chase the threads with. Going to be replacing the hardware. And the previous owner or somebody, maybe factory, I have no idea, had packed this area with like plumber's putty. Yeah, I don't know, maybe there's a place for that. I'll have to decide whether I'm going to do something similar. On the inside edge, okay, so now I've swapped it around. So you can see the latch mechanism. Huh. It's like some trim. Oh, I bet that slides in the rails. Okay. So I'm going to need to clean these up a lot. Even with the outside vinyl gone, I was still able to kind of open and close it still, and not very well. So I assume these need some sort of a grease or a lubrication on them. And then this is the mechanism that would pull it in tight. So I'm hoping that the replacement material, which I'll be opening in a second, fits this okay. Looks like it's just glued down on the top edge too. I have a new headliner for the car, and it's in black. And I'm trying to decide whether I should replace this now, and then it'll just be a different color. The headliner that's in there is in this condition. It's really rough. So maybe I'll go ahead and throw the new headliner piece on here. I'll think about that. Let me go ahead and restage, and I want to open up the new material box and take a look at that. I've held off on shooting this video, so I have not even removed it from the tube. So let me shoot a clip pulling it out of the tube, and then I'll start looking at how this thing is disassembled. So let me bring you back in a second. Okay, so I've had this new material for the sunroof for a couple months now, and I'm just opening it up. I ordered it from John Morgan. Found him on, I think, one of the Facebook pages. When I asked about where to get something like this, everyone said him, and he is a regular on those Facebook pages, and was easy enough to get a hold of him. And like I said, there were quite a few different materials selection, and I furnished him with a few basic dimensions, and he custom made it for my good fit. Let's see here. Looks like it's packaged pretty well. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Here's something else in there. Looks like maybe some protective corners and even some rivets. And this is that hearts cloth material that I said I had it made in. Looks like the corners are already kind of set to be glued over. It's a nice material. Okay, so I don't know what I'm doing, but this looks like some sort of a seal, so maybe that's the way you take care of that back edge where I showed you the plumber's putty was. So we've also got some nylon cordage in there. So he's got some stuff marked out. So this is, oh, look at that. Okay. So there's some dimensions and some writing in here that should be helpful. I think the next step is going to be for me to take the old one apart and make a note of its construction, take photographs, and maybe do some comparisons with this one. And maybe I can reverse engineer this thing. So, yep, looks like exactly what I ordered, and hopefully I've given him the correct dimensions. So let me bring you back when I've got something more to show you. I think my first step is going to be in possibly removing this mechanism. It's got a couple of Phillips screws here and a couple of Phillips screws here. So let me see what happens by just taking those 4 out and seeing if I can't see a little bit more details on how to remove that. Maybe that's all it is and it'll come right out. So I'll bring you back after I've taken those screws out. Okay, so I've got these 4 tiny little screws out, and I could tell that this trim piece that went over the hook was broken, so not surprised about that. And I could tell that this part has seen better days too. I'm sure they're unobtainium. So now I can see a little better, but I'm still confused on what would go next. It appears I've got, I don't know, flush rivets here. So I'm not really sure what the next thing to do is. And I'm tempted, I'm not sure. I'm gonna do some exploratory. I mean, I can always start peeling back the glued corners on the vinyl and see what happens. Oh, look, that's stapled there. And this is that foam strip that I showed you earlier. So that's where that guy goes. Probably a similar one in the back might be a good idea, but not exactly sure what to do next. So let me explore a little bit, and if I come up with something, I'll bring you back and tell you what I found. Okay, I haven't made any more progress, but I think I wanted to shoot another quick clip to point out that I've got, this is ripped here, but it's like a little clip that fits in a pocket and then pulls this liner taut, and that's on both sides, so I wanted to point that out. And then I'm looking at this profile. I'm not sure you can see that or not, but this is kind of like sliding. Like I did a video on replacing the RV arrow shade, and so this appears to just kind of slide in from one end, but the other side is not, and I haven't quite figured out how you do that. So I think what I'm going to do next is to remove these staples and then start peeling back this material, and then maybe by looking at the other side I can see how it's actually constructed. So that's my next step. I'm gonna go ahead and peel this outside edges off, and I'll bring you back when I've got that done. Okay, bringing you back for another clip here. So I've peeled this back, and it was obviously bent around this edge. It includes some distance on the top side and on the inside edge here. And I also found that there was there's a reinforcing piece here, remember, from the package. So I guess I would be gluing this in, and then that makes it easier to glue, I don't know, these corners around. But this is where, at least, I guess in the back, I can't tell if there's, looks like there might be 4 pieces in there, but I guess I glued these corners down first, and then when I'm reinstalling the new sheath. And then I also found webbing, right? So this webbing is riveted to this edge, so that it limits, I guess, its maximum length front back, and this is recreated in this one as well. So yeah, so that's what I found so far. I'll bring you back if I come up with another interesting tidbit. Okay, I'm flipping this thing around, and this is the outside edge of the front. You can see the latch mechanism. And there are a couple of screws here. So because I'm a little bit at a loss on what to do next, I'm going to go ahead and pull these off and see if I can figure out what's underneath it. All right, I'll bring it back. Okay, that got me somewhere. I pulled those 2 screws out, and then I was able to remove a bunch of it. So this is the part that I guess I'm going to get the new material adhered to. So it's going to be a combination of, let's see, can you see that? Yeah. So there's those 2 rivets on either end. They're a little bit more apparent on the inside edge. So there's 2 rivets on each corner, and then the material is going to be glued down over these 4. So, and then I pointed out how the back of the headliner part could be slid out, like the welting just pulled right out. And when I was able to disconnect the front from it, then I was able to slide it out of that slot. Let me show you what that looks like. Gonna have to spend some time cleaning and rust treating some of that. But here's the inside part. So when I removed those 2 screws, that they were here, and I don't know what that's about. There was actually another one. Maybe I'll put that back in, not sure. I got some padding here, so it looks like I might have to pop a rivet out here to replace this part. I'll have to take a look at my new headliner to see if this portion of it has this bead reinforcing in here. I bet it does. But so looks like I just kind of glue this headliner over it after slipping in, popping the rivet on one side, sliding it in, and then gluing it down to this front face. So, okay, it's coming together. Here's the latch mechanism. So I don't think, yeah, look at that, okay. I don't know if you saw how that cam rotated these mechanisms, lowered that down. Can you see that moving when this cam comes around? Pretty slick. It's a nice design. Yeah. So I think I'm stuck in popping one of these rivets off to remove this last part. So let me go ahead and do that. And then I'm looking in here, and it looks like these are rivets as well that will need to be drilled out so that that cover plate can come off and I can install this new material correctly. So I don't think there's any way around that. Have to see how many rivets were included. I've got a bunch too, so let me bring you back when I've got a little bit more done. Okay, so I've kind of ground off the 2 rivets that were here, and I think I can now pass this through the pocket. And I took a look at the new headliner that I got when I purchased the vehicle, and there's a big piece of vinyl in there. The receipt says that the vinyl is for replacement of this part, but it's just a big piece of vinyl. And while I can sew, this is going to slow me way down. That vinyl needs to have this welting sewed through the back. It needs to have this pocket sewed on in the right location. And then it's got webbing. I don't know if you can see that. It's got webbing here in the sides. So this inner part's a lot more complicated than I realized, and I now realize I should have opened up the packaging of that headliner and taken a closer look at it. But I didn't really give too much thought about how complex this part might have been. So I'm going to have to think about what to do about that. But the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and peel this off of this plate, and I'm going to probably take the material off the other two plates and start to clean them up and do whatever rust treatment, and so I'll be doing, you know, that and some painting probably the next day or two. So let me bring you back when I've got something more to show you. Okay, so I've used a center drill and knocked these rivets out, and I guess I should have known. It popped up like it was going to come out, but now I'm wondering if I need to somehow take, yeah, it looks like there's a set screw or something here in the side. Oh, looks like I can, It almost looks like it just ought to pop out. I think if I unscrew this hook, then it should come out. Boy, that's tight. Now I'm wondering if I should be removing these Phillips. That one's coming out easier. We'll find out in a second. Okay, so that's not wanting to rotate anymore because of the hook. I don't know if I can just sneak that out or not. No instructions for any of this kind of stuff. So close to being able to just sneak and pass there. Nope. And then I can't quite get to the Phillips heads because the hook's in the way. So that leaves me to think I need to, maybe I can sneak this down on both sides. That'll fall away. Yeah, that looks like it's going to work. All right, something happened. Okay. Not sure what that is. Maybe a friction plate of some kind. Sure like to be able to sneak that hook out. So what does that look like? So if am I just spinning this guy? Well, it looks like this hook might be coming loose. All right, so that's the way to do it. You can take the hook off by pulling out the flat bladed. So there's the 2 screws for that. Get that hook out, hopefully. No. Boy. Ah, success. Okay. Looks like some sort of a spring to keep tension on this hook. Okay, so now I'm going to bag and tag this, take some photographs, and remove this last part of the interior and the padding. I'll bring you back. Okay, here's the next step. I've got these sanded back, and I think they look pretty good. I didn't quite completely go after this guy. It looked a lot better than the other ones. So I went with the black, but you can see all the surface corrosion is gone. And I'm going to start putting this back together. So I am going to break this up into kind of 2 parts. I did not do a good job with my planning on this one. I kind of assumed I received a headliner with the with the purchase from the previous owner, and I could tell there was a piece in there for the inner headliner portion of this sunroof, but I was lazy, I guess, and I never pulled it out, never looked at it. Now I'm taking it apart and I see how complicated this inner part is. And it's got all kinds of folds and webs and pockets, and I don't have that. I've just got a piece of vinyl. And I thought I was going to install this sunroof headliner for my car show that's just in a couple of days. And while I guess I technically have the skills to sew that into something that'll work well and probably look okay, I did not leave myself enough time to do that. So my thought is I'm going to assemble this sunroof without the internal liner, and then even though it's kind of pot rooted together, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then at a later date, after I've sewn a new internal piece, I am going to drill out the pot rivets again and install that inner headliner. Maybe at the same time that I'm actually having the interior, the headliner installed, or trying to do it myself. So that's the plan. I'm gonna go. This is gonna be done in stages, and sorry if you're looking forward to this video so you could see how to do it, but I'm gonna assemble it. And so this video is probably not going to air for a while until I get the internal part done, or maybe I'll release it, or maybe I won't. I'm not really sure. So I'll figure that out. I've been reached out to a couple people that are interested in seeing how this thing is together. So maybe I should make this a part 1 in the series of headliner. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I'm leaning towards that. So anyway, I'm going to put this together. Here's the clip of the current condition. I'm going to start by gluing in the pieces in the corners, and maybe I'll bring you back for a short clip once I've done that. All right, thanks. Okay, so I'm a little bit later at night than I had expected, but I'm back to this project, working on other stuff. But yeah, so I've got the corners glued in on, I guess what I'm going to call the upper frames. And then I popped 3 rivets into the inner frame, which gets screwed in. And I'm not going to go ahead and put all of them in, because this is just going to come back out again when I finish the inner headliner material. So this is current status, and I'll bring you back when I got another step done. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure about the next step. This is like the rear bow of the Sunroof, and there's some really nice marks here from John Morgan. So I think I need to trust in his knowledge, because I have none. I have chased the threads on these 3. This is hardware that goes through the fiberglass roof and into this. And so I guess what I'm going to do is I need to attach this webbing, and that goes through. It's going to be riveted here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up these lines as best as possible. I'm going to fold the fabric over. Remember, I'm doing this one-handed as I'm holding the camera, trying to keep you in focus and talk at the same time. I'm going to line up this as much as possible. I'm going to put clamps on it, and then I'm hoping with the clamps on it I can line up and rivet in, you know, these straps. So I think when I get the straps in, it's going to be set, and then I do want to put either a spray foam or even brushed on in these areas to attach this. I haven't decided yet. Probably I'm going to go with spray. I'm deciding right now. But that is after I have set position by riveting these in place. So then at that point, I will probably be using the brush on contact cement to pull these corners over. So that's my plan, and I'll bring you back when I have something to show you or tell you how badly it turns out or whatnot. Let's hope not, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so here's what that looks like. This is the first one. I lined it up as best as possible, and I used a soldering iron to melt through the fabric of the nylon webbing there, and then I popped the rivets in it. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do it on the other side, and then maybe I'll get around to adhering this section with adhesive, spray adhesive tonight. Maybe not. I'll bring you back when I have something to show you. Okay, so now that I have those reinforcement straps riveted down, I think I'm gonna go ahead and glue this edge, and then I think I'm going to maybe flip it over and do the other side before I tackle the front. And I'm going to be using this contact adhesive that I got from A1 Foam store. The place is pretty amazing. They must have 30,000 different bolts of automotive fabric. It's I believe in Santa Ana here in California. But yeah, so let me get to that, and I'll bring you back when I've got something to show you. Okay, I'm shooting a lot of clips of this, and maybe you're getting bored, maybe you're not, but I guess this is turning into a little bit of a how-to, even though I'm not qualified with any kind of experience to do that. So I'm just going to talk through the steps that I took, and you can decide whether, or maybe we can decide together whether I made good choices or not. I used the spray glue on the inside surface of this felt, this hearts cloth, and then this face, this face of the rear support. And then I did end up using contact cement in this corner where it overlaps the new glued down material that I had previously done. So I think what I'm going to do now is flip it over and then glue this face to this side of the support. So that's the step I'm taking there. Over on this side, I'm trying to reassemble the latch mechanism, and I did take photographs of how everything is supposed to look. Boy, this is really tough to get in here. I might have done better to put this stuff in before I riveted this frame back into place. I've decided, I guess you can tell now, I've decided to reassemble this outer cover without the inner. I think I mentioned that before, just for the car show. So I'm gonna save some rivets and not put those two in, just because I'm gonna have to drill them out so that when I put on the headliner portion of this project, it's just two less things I have to drill out. But it might have been easier to stick this part in prior to riveting these, so maybe take that as advice. And it might have also been easier to have attached the handle with these screws, because I am now just remembering that that this hook kind of covers the flathead screws there. So I'm gonna have to take this off again and then try and get those screws aligned and then reinstall this hook. So that's where I'm at. I'll bring you back when I have something to show you. Okay, so this clip is going to be listed as what not to do. If I had to do this again, which I do on the front, I am going to glue in the material to this edge first, and then secondarily this face. So take that advice, and if you're doing this project, do that yourself. All right. Okay, so I was able to hold the fabric apart and shoot some of the adhesive in there, and I think I did okay. I think it looks pretty decent. And then the corners look okay. I used the brush on liquid cement for these corners and this edge. And I think I'm going to call this good for now and start working on the other side. So I'll bring you back when I have something to show you. Bye. This might be self-explanatory, but these are the holes that the rivets go through for the reinforcement strips that are in the new fabric. And I basically just kind of burned through the holes with a hot soldering iron, and that's how I got through that fabric with a neat hole. I'll bring you back. Okay, so I have laid this over the car, and just to double check this line that's in here, and it's pretty close. I might make it just a tad bit tighter. When I had it in the car, I came up with these lines, and then when I line that up and roll this over, you can see it's pretty much right on. Well, so over here it was a little bit looser. That center one looks dead on, so I might be eating my words a little bit. Anyway, so you can see there might be just a 1/16 more I might give this. I'll do my best to probably hit the line, to tell you the truth. Now that I'm looking at my line right here, look good. And as I roll this up, that line's right on. So the next part of this is to rivet this strap through those holes. And it's a little difficult. I noticed these red lines, and I went back to my pictures of how the original looked. So I'm gonna trim that one off, just like I've done here. So I have cut on that trim line, and so my next step will be to try and clamp the fabric to this, and then pull this taut, and maybe try and melt through the strap through those holes, and then that'll give me the place where I can peel this back and actually rivet this in. So that'll be my next step. I'll trim this corner and then rivet the two straps, and I'll bring you back when I've got that done. All right, bye. Okay, so I've got the straps riveted on. I gotta trim this one, but and then I've had it taped off, and I've sprayed on the contact cement, and I'm just kind of waiting for it to tack up, and then I'm gonna line up the lines and bring it home. See the rivets for the straps there. And yeah, I'll bring you back when I have something to show you. Okay, so the gluing of this inside surface, I'll say the fabric side, it's hard to tell which is inside and outside now, but outside the vehicle, but still inside of this fabric, went well for positioning. But then luckily I realized in time that I need access to this screw and this screw to attach the mechanism that pulls the sunroof taut. So if I'd been smart, I would not have sprayed, oh gosh, at least maybe 1.25 inches. I would have masked off, and I would have sprayed at least this far down, so I had the flexibility to flex this and get that screw in. So learn from my mistakes. This is still going to be fine for me. Might be difficult when I try and pull this apart again when I do the interior. But anyway, learn from my mistake. I wouldn't have glued all the way up to this line that I've drawn if I were you. So you guys do that in the future. Good luck. I'll bring you back when I have something to show you. Okay, so next clip, I have trimmed the material back. This is even a little bit more than the factory had left based on my photographs. Trimmed it back, glued it over, again using the contact cement. So I think I just have the corners to deal with. I'm going to trim them down and then pie cut them like was done in the back. And I'm going to screw in the interior part that has all the mechanism in it. And I'm hoping this is going to be done with part one of the sunroof. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but this is the day before I go back to San Diego for the British car show. And I've just gone through one of the carburetors, so I have the engine running. This is a little bit bonus footage. And man, didn't realize it wasn't getting full performance out of one of the carbs. It was puking a little bit of fuel out. It must have been running a lot rich. But I've got some new air cleaners on this that clear the hood a little better than maybe what we've seen in the past. But the response, that throttle response is very, what I would call snappy, and it's not puking fuel out, so that's a good thing. So it does appear I'm going to make the British car show. No. So to bring this clip back to sunroof, I've got this bow reconnected, reinstalled, the components of it back together. I had this together so that I could verify the lines on the fabric I got from Mr. Morgan, and they were pretty much spot on. I think this is going to work out. I've got the channels cleaned up. I've got this, I spent some time cleaning up. It's some sort of a plastic runner. Maybe you can see it there. This plastic runner was full of goop and old lubrication and maybe even some glue. It wasn't moving very well in the channel. There's probably I could probably do better in reprofiling this channel. Maybe I'll do that in the future. But I've got this all cleaned out and I've got the plastic cleaned up. So I think once I get the last of that bow I just showed you glued in place, I can screw this baby in, reinstall it. I just picked up some new hardware for these 4 locations. And I think I'm gonna have a somewhat secure, roof line in the near future. But I had brought you over here since I had the engine running. I just feel like that throttle response is pretty impressive. So I thought I'd show you that. And let me bring you back when I've got something to show you a little bit more on the sunroof. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, here's the next step on the sunroof. So you saw in the previous clip, I've got this trim back, and then I've now glued this corner over, and I think it looks pretty smart. And so the next step is to screw this interior headliner in, and I know you're getting tired of me saying it because I shoot these clips far enough apart, and I do remember telling you that I'm not going to be installing the interior trim or the interior headliner yet, but I'm going to be screwing this in and putting it in place. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way this looks. I sure hope this fits as well as I expect or hope it does. And I'll bring you back when I've got something to show you. All right. Thanks. Okay, so I know I'm shooting a lot of clips here, but I'm doing it because I figure there's a bunch of TVR owners in the community that have to tackle this in the future. And so this is, again, still part one. I've incorporated the bow, the action here. So this is the, let's see. So that's the action of the hook. And again, this is temporarily installed. Yes, I know I said it before, but there's going to be an interior headliner portion that's going to be in a part 2 of this series. But taking this thing to a car show tomorrow and trying to get this back together. And so I think it looks still pretty smart even without it. Maybe it's a bit of a Porsche Speedster here, you know, a little bit more unrefined on the inside, but that's okay. I've cleaned up the runners. These had a bunch of glue and paint and stuff on them. So I'm hoping these will run a lot smoother than how I found it. I've got the corners glued over, and I expect this glue to solidify or become even more firm, you know, in the as it's exposed to sunlight and heat. So far, this is going pretty well. No complaints. It is a lot more work than I was expecting. You know, maybe there are companies out there that will install this for you, but it's completely doable. You've got to have some hands-on skills and maybe not experience, but maybe you can learn from my mistakes. And regarding that, this is what I'm talking about, needing access to these 2 screws. This screw goes through this bow and into this interior aspect. So you do need access to these 2 screws in installation. So I think I'm going to note one more thing here. I don't think I'm going to set up a tripod and show you this, but what happens is I'm going to install these sliders first. They need to be put in at an angle, like a crazy angle, you know, just to get them in the right track on the car. And I'll have this back folded over. And then there's these 4 locations that go through the fiberglass body, and I have stainless steel hardware for that. So let me walk you over, and maybe it make more sense if I explain. I'm planning on having the sunroof folded in half, and then I'm going to place those plastic runners into the track at an angle so that they can get in there. And then once I have them in, I'll shove it most of the way to the front, probably not fully engaged. I expect the top to fit fairly taut. And then I'll have the sunroof folded in half. So once I get the guides or those plastic rails in the track, then I'll flip it over and then engage them into these 4 holes. You can see 3 of them here. And then I'll go inside and I will put the new hardware in. And, and then I'll try and close this thing with the hook. And I'm hoping that's gonna be a nice tight fit. I'll bring you back when I've got the guides installed and the new hardware in, and then I'll walk you through. That might be the last clip for this series, part 1, and I'll bring you back when I have something more to show you. All right, thanks. Almost forgot this clip. This is the trim that was supplied from John Morgan with the fabric, and I'm not sure I've installed it in a good spot. but it's easy enough to buy additional foam of this type. As a matter of fact, this is what I've decided to do on the back side. This is just kind of a universal foam, and I feel like the adhesion will take as it sits in place and isn't compressed against the body. So yeah, so now I'm going to actually try and bolt it in, as I explained in the last clip, but I've got the foam insulation installed, and I feel like this one's going to work out fine. It'll compress and make a good seal. This one, I don't know if it's going to stick. You know, this is the actual moving part, so it might get ripped off and I have to figure out something else, but I'll give it a try at this location and I'll let you know, probably in part 2. All right, thanks. Hi, this is Steven with Demo Garage, and this is the end of part 1 of the sunroof restoration, and I've got it installed, good enough to go for tomorrow. So let me show you what we have going on. All right, I'll bring it back. All right, so looks pretty good. Installed. I really like the Hartz cloth rather than the vinyl. I'm sure it's personal preference. Nice taut finish. Looks pretty good. It's looks much better on this side than the other side. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to chalk that up to needing to put my knee into the bow of the current situation. I'm going to do that, but I've run out of time, so shooting this video. Looks really good. Yeah, I like the way this thing fits. Of course, a lot of fitment is going to be related to the ability of the person putting it in. And then again, this is part 1 because I don't have the interior headliner done. So yeah, I put some new hardware in it. That was a lot of fun. It's 1032 on that rear, those 4 pieces. So I have no idea how much this is gonna sound. You know, if it's gonna be super loud or not. A lot of wind whipping through it, I'm guessing. So yeah, that's the end of this clip, the end of this episode, and I appreciate you joining me. In episode 2, I will give you an update on how this turned out after driving 100 miles with it. And then of course I'm going to be installing the interior headliner part, so that'll be in part 2. So stick with me, and I'll bring you back when I know more. And thanks for joining me, and thanks for joining me.